Okay, so hello, audience. It's a privilege to have Dan on our show now, and I'm going to give a little introduction about Dan. He's CEO for Engage Prospect organization in USA, Pittsburgh, and he's an author and he's a public speaker. And then he's also running his own podcast that is also called as Engage Prospect podcast. So and about 55 sales department he has developed, and he has incredibly helped the organization to grow, develop the sales team, and hundreds of new startup companies he has supported to increase their business. So this is about Dan, and hi Dan, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thanks
Great
for
to see you.
coming. Yeah, and can you just give a brief idea about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been in sales and marketing for my whole career, so 20 plus years. We do a lot of really cool things. You mentioned working with startups. That's certainly one of my passions, is helping folks that don't know necessarily how to get their business to grow. We do a lot of things to help them, and I love it. But yeah, salesperson, husband. We have a nice little family of dogs. No children yet, but all we're very busy and happy.
Okay. See, as far as we are happy, that's fine, right?
That's it. All that matters.
Yeah. So, what is the reason behind starting up Engage Prospect?
So yeah, a few reasons, but primarily I was working for a larger company as director of sales in the business, and we grew very quickly. So um, unlike a startup, we were a pretty decent sized organization selling educational products into schools and school districts around the world. And when we grew, we became really challenged with managing the new influx of customers and also continuing to find new potential customers. There's a balancing act that a sales team has to do there. And I learned about the industry of sales outsourcing from that experience, and took some of the best practices that sales outsourcing organizations do to help companies grow, and added some things that I had been working on in other areas of my work to focus it on small and mid-sized businesses. Basically, figuring out how to solve the challenge of when companies have resource issues, right? They can't just add a bunch of people to their team. They don't have the expertise. They don't have all of the technology that they need or think they might need. Our organization comes in and helps them figure out how to build a supporting system around your sales effort.
Okay. So, do you think having such kind of a company who can support for such kind of resource issues will definitely help? What way and all it can help?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just like working with a mechanic to fix your car as opposed to trying to figure it out yourself, or going to a doctor when you're sick, having a lawyer available to help your company or your individual life, working with companies that specialize in something that you're struggling with, I do find to be very important. And I guess the concept is we do it all the time, or the theory, right, is we do it all the time, so we know how to do it faster, how to do it more efficiently and the right way the first time, as opposed to companies that are, if you're just starting out and you've developed a software platform, let's say, and you're an engineer by trade, trying to figure out how to market it, trying to figure out how to sell it, trying to figure out how to build a website, trying to figure out how to incorporate your business and work with attorneys. It's a lot of stuff, right? We don't sleep much in the first several years, and that's okay because you're passionate, you're running off of coffee and your idea. But if you could have a group of people to come in and help you speed things along, we try to solve some major challenges that companies have early in their life cycle.
And also, if they invest on resources on their own, and if that doesn't work out, then it's going to be a lot of losses for them, right?
That's right. I'm sure you hear that a lot with your podcasts and also just in business. I see it too. Companies don't survive, or they do survive, but they stall out, and if their intent was to sell the company, maybe they get less money, or if their intent was to build a team around them of excited people, they don't get that. Yeah, there's a lot of negative ramifications, but if you look at it from the human level, and we've talked a bunch of times in the past, and I know you have a small 1-year-old baby, just past 1 year old.
Yeah.
You have things going on at home, you have things going on at work, and you have things going on probably with your friends and family. And entrepreneurs, founders of companies, tend to like really put their all into their company. Unfortunately, fortunately, they have other things that are important to them, but unfortunately, they don't have the opportunity to just work 9 to 5 and then shut it off. When you start a business, you're working a ton of hours and you're building everything from scratch. If there were organizations like ours, and there are, of course, but that can help you build out your sales effort, help you build out your marketing effort, help you with the legal challenges, help you with accounting. That's why these specialized services exist. It's to help make it easier for the founders, or make it easier for the president of a mid-sized company to accomplish goals without hiring 20 people and spending all of that money.
At least you are taking up some of the load of a newly startup company.
Exactly.
And just I want to know, it's a very simple question. What is the difference between inside sales and outbound sales? Just give an idea about it.
Yeah, good. That's a great question, and that's changing. So the answer is different today than it was years ago.
Yeah, because when I read different articles, it is giving different kind of answers.
Sure. Yeah. So field sales is the oldest form of sales, right? And it's face to face. You're sitting down, shaking hands with somebody. In the past, right, there was a lot of energy put towards entertaining customers or taking people to lunch and dinner. Field sales is no doubt the best way to build relationships. You can get to know your customers, and they get to know you very well. And the premise of field sales is you're out in the field, visiting customers, going into their offices or hospital systems or schools, whatever you're selling. And the concept is to build really good, strong relationships, right? People buy from people that they like. People trust and understand if they have a human connection and a relationship, all of that, right? And so inside sales started as what is called telemarketing. So back decades ago, when the phone became a popular business tool, inside sales came on board, and the concept was like, okay, if we don't have to meet the customer face to face, if we don't have to bring them materials and show them how a product or a service works, if we don't need to do these various things, we can call the potential customer, talk to them on the phone, and get them to buy or get them into the sales process by using this new technology, the telephone. So they have been wildly different in the past. Field sales and inside sales would work together in some capacities, but they weren't the same. For a few reasons now, that gap has shrunk. So issue number one, the obvious is, I'll start with the other obvious. So technology has come around. And as technology like Zoom and Google Hangouts and Skype calls, being able to send documents electronically, obviously with email, being able to do all of these things with the technical sense, you can feel like you're developing a personal relationship just through video conferencing, right? Not the same, but it's getting closer. The other concept which forced this on us is COVID, of course, right? That's the obvious one. And COVID and technology aligning together at the right time has changed selling for sure. People now are all working from home or working from a space that's not as crowded like a typical office might be. And this is becoming super common, of course, right? So I'm seeing, and I think people in our industry are seeing, that inside sales is showing that it can do all the things up to a certain point that field sales can do. You might need to throw in a personal meeting, maybe later into the sales process. Maybe once they come on board and are a customer, you go on site and you visit them and introduce yourself. But that's not necessarily required like it was in the past. And today that gap is kind of coming a lot closer.
Yeah. Just an interlink question, but do you think because of this, even women have more opportunity to, get into more and more sales, because, inside sales has become more popular now and it's coming up now?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple parts to that, right? So you and I have talked a lot about stay-at-home moms looking for opportunities to get back into their careers or to start a new career. Off the top of my head, so inside sales is a great opportunity for them in that respect, because if specific made up example, of course, but like, you just you have a 1-year-old, right? So 1 year and 1 month year old. Probably you're not ready, and I'm making this up, but probably you're not ready to drive 45 minutes to the office, spend 8 hours in the office, drive 45 minutes home, and be home at 6 o'clock every night, missing that window of time with your 1-year-old, right?
Yeah.
With inside sales, with remote selling, which of course is, again, a combination of technology advancement and COVID, naturally. But because of that change, and because of inside sales becoming such a fast growing piece of our industry, we're able to do it from home. So I'm making this up. I don't know where your baby is, but I assume your baby is nearby, and after this call, you'll be able to go and walk her around the room, right? Or give her a bottle. You can't do that if you're in the office. So I think just because of those two factors, I think that this is going to be a huge help for specifically stay-at-home moms. I believe that the gig economy, so people that want to try a new career without quitting their job and going all in, have the opportunity now to work a couple of hours a day or a week just to try something prior to quitting their job. Inside sales helps that tremendously. I think that, women getting into sales, regardless of, so let's look at the more typical route, right? Where somebody is in their career, not working at home because of a child or those things, but they're just in their career. I think that inside sales and outside field sales, which is also called outside sales, I think both of those, and this will probably be some questions you ask, but I think both of those, personally, women tend to be stronger in the selling world. It's an unfortunate thing. I don't know how it is in India. I'm sure you can share with us, but in the United States, it's lopsided. There's more male sales members on teams than there are female sales members. I don't have the expertise to know if it's because of the market and there's more men looking for jobs. I'm not sure, but I do know that the numbers are skewed, more men than women. And I think that with inside sales being a more affordable route of selling, I think with inside sales being able to do the things, like I said, gig economies, et cetera, plus the fact that women tended to outperform men in certain areas of selling, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to help them get into this industry and into this career.
So I think women audience will be happy by listening this, I believe.
Yes.
Especially the moms will be happy by listening this. I agree. Even in India, it is the male are more compared to female. Even comparatively, US here the ratio is very less. The female ratio in sales is very, very less.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? What factors go into that? Because I said, and it's a true statistic, I don't know the numbers specifically, but Harvard Business Review has talked about this. I've known this ever since, frankly, college, that women stereotypically are tiny bit more trustworthy. They are more energetic on the phone or through video. As I said earlier, people buy from people they like. So if you can build a relationship and engage somebody quickly, they're going to like you more. All of these factors, right? And they outperform men. Not across the board, and it's case by case, but statistically speaking, that's true. Why is there such a gap? I know you've done some research.
Yeah, I'm still doing. I'm doing research on that. It's all old myths. I feel it's old belief system, old myths. It's created the big barrier. I think awareness is missing in a bigger way.
Okay.
One is society barrier. Society, thinks sales is not for women, female. Even a female feels that she cannot talk in front of a male customers. She's having lack of confidence, lack of courage to travel alone. It's like all here they brought up in a conservative and closed circle. They're not allowed to go out alone, in the initial days.
Okay.
So a girl going and staying in a hotel alone, traveling alone is not that familiar.
Yeah.
That is stopping them. But I think the awareness have to be created a lot. The other side we have to show. Nowadays everywhere people are traveling. The myths has to be, broken for some time. Then things will happen. Yeah.
Certainly. I feel like I'm not an expert in this topic, but I feel like in the United States it's less of a myth versus and tradition thing. Granted, there is that element in play too, but it has to be less than in India. But it's still a real problem. We still have an imbalance in male and female executives, male and female salaries and compensation, male and female just total numbers of workers. I don't know in every industry, of course, but in sales for sure. Yeah. And yet we see that they outperform us. And every manager or senior level leader I had getting into my career was all female.
Wow.
Sometimes my age, sometimes a little bit older, and sometimes younger. And they were excellent. That's different, right? We're talking now promotions and these other topics, not just being sales reps. But you don't get promoted if you're terrible at your current job. You don't tend to get a promotion. So I feel like they were performing excellently prior to bringing me on board.
Great. That's what see, even in US I'm seeing a lot of podcasts about women in sales, and many are talking about it. Maybe compared to India, like they're much more ahead of talking about it, spreading the awareness.
Yeah.
It will take some time, but it is progressing. That's what I feel. Yeah, it's progressing. And even one more thing is they feel that they are unable to balance work life if they are in sales. Okay. This is also a myth, according to me. It's all myths has been created. Sure. Slowly it has to, once the awareness, like me, like so many community forms and guide the women, things will be better. So it will take some time, but things are moving in a positive direction.
That's interesting about the awareness piece, right? A lot of times people avoid having that discussion.
Yes.
And naturally, I don't have the solution, but happy to have the discussion all day, because what I think most business leaders want, and I can't speak for everybody, but those that I know very well, we want the best candidates possible.
Wow.
At the end of the day, I want my team to sell the most amount of things that they can possibly sell. I don't care their gender, race. I don't care their age.
Wow, great.
The more sales you make, the bigger your organization gets and the more opportunity you have. That's pretty basic, right? I'll tell you this. I do tend to get more male applications than female applications, job applications. That could be statistically speaking. I'm sure there's reasons for that, right? We talked about stay-at-home moms. Well, at the time that they are about to become a mom and being a new mom, they probably aren't looking for new jobs, would be my guess, right? During that time period. So there's factors, but I don't know why that is.
See, from even in the college days, for girls, they want doctor, engineer, that kind of a job. So nobody tell or teach that even sales is a good profession. Even when I was in college, I didn't know ABCD about sales.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of volunteers have to come forward and create awareness. There are so many benefits. Sales, they can earn like anything if they really perform well. It's black and white.
Absolutely.
What they put effort, they get. So, and they also have, as you said, they have a great skills which they can outperform. So these are all the positive side which the awareness have to be created.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
I was going to ask something that I don't know if you've had any thoughts around, but you brought up confidence earlier in the sense of speaking to a male buyer and selling for a career. The concept of confidence. Do you think there is a confidence component to searching for a job? So let me back up. My wife is just tremendous, and she runs a health center in our town. She's the chief operating officer of her organization, and she talks a lot about. Sometimes she's talking about herself, and sometimes she's talking about others. But she talks a lot about imposter syndrome, which is the concept of showing up and feeling like you don't belong, and having self-doubt. And I think, I'm not 100% sure if my memory is correct, but I believe that can be attributed more to females than to males. The concept of imposter syndrome. I shouldn't be the chief operating officer. I shouldn't be the CEO. I shouldn't be the manager, whatever. I wonder if that translates over into the sales world where, and again, I don't know this to be true, but the scenario being like, well, I'm a 25-year-old college graduate female. I'm looking for my first job out of school. I'm going to apply for this lower level marketing job, right? And that I did quotes because that could be anything, but I'm going to apply to this job because that's what women do. I'm not a salesperson. No one will believe me and no one will trust me. So and that's all confidence, right? Whereas the person that shows up and says, I'm going to be the best salesperson on this team, they don't have that mindset. And so they don't care. I don't know, but I wonder if that has an element to it.
See, according to me, as you said, they do not have confidence. Why they do not have confidence? Because they do not have self-belief in them. The self-belief is missing that they can do sales job.
Yeah, 100%.
So that self-belief have to build up, and they should be more ambitious. I don't know about US, but in India, it's like women means for her, the priority is family. She has to have a baby, take care of the family, husband. She's in that circle.
Yep.
Sales is something like you really have to be ambitious, there should be driving force. But for a male, it is it is necessary skills. They should be ambitious. That's why they're choosing more and more sales. Right. But for a girl, first she has to build up her self-belief system. That's how the confidence will build up. Number two, she should have an ambition in life. She also have to grow. She also have to leave a mark, break the glass ceiling. All this have to come up. So the core thing missing is belief system. If she believes in herself, she can do wonders in sales. She
Mm-hmm.
has all the qualities. She has all the skills. Only main thing missing is belief. She do not have belief in herself. I think the more and more she watches other women growing up in that kind of career, she may have confidence, I believe.
That's an interesting point, right? The more you're exposed to it, and I don't know when this started, probably the 60s and 70s in the United States, but the more women have gotten into the workplace, more women have. I doubt you know this person's name, but I'm curious. Have you ever heard of the actress? She's older now, and in fact, I'm not sure if she's still alive. I think she is, but Carol Burnett. Have you ever heard of Carol Burnett? Okay.
No.
She was an actress. I believe she started in the 50s and went until about the 90s. That could be totally wrong for your listeners listening. I don't know, but she's a lot older than me, so she's always been an old person to me as I was growing up. But I listened to an interview with her just last week, and she was saying that her mom, she wanted to go to college. And that was of course not common when she was growing up. And her mom said, "Oh, why don't you go and get a job, and that way you can meet a husband, and then you can so go and it was specifically become like a somebody who works on a typewriter, right? A secretary basically, and do that. Then you'll meet a husband, and then you'll be taken care of forever." Well, it turns out she said, like, to heck with that. I'm going to go to college. And then eventually she became an actress. And at one point in her career, she was the highest paid actor in the United States or whatever because of her show. It was wildly popular. Do you know who Jimmy Fallon is or Jay Leno? That she was that kind of person.
Okay.
She had her own show for a long time. And her mom, I remember that part. Her mom said, "No, go get a job and get a husband," as opposed to this. So that was long enough ago to where I don't have a clue how long it was, but it was short enough ago to where she had her own television show, right? And she was alive at least recently. So my point is, I fast forward 20 years from now, everybody growing up has seen role models in their lives that they can model themselves after. And that has to be, I don't know the stats, but that has to be a huge factor on how people move into their lives, right? Based on what they saw from others.
Yeah, that's true.
Carol Burnett, look her up.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So, see, even just it is striking my mind, even if you go back 10 years, maybe 30 years back, my mom generation, they were not allowed to go for job. Even this 9 to 5 job, they were not allowed.
Really?
They were meant to be inside the home, taking care of the family, children. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So now the situation is, even now there are family, I know they're not allowed to go for a job, but still at least maybe 60% of a family going for a job, but they're allowed only 9 to 5. So now the next step would be, even they can travel, they can stay alone. I think it takes some more time.
Interesting.
Okay, so my question is, what is the strategy or your advice to have a strong inbound, outbound sales?
What is the strategy to have a strong inbound sales?
Yeah.
That was 2 questions, inbound and outbound.
Because you said even now the outbound is also, similar to inbound, right?
Yeah. So are you talking inside sales versus outside sales?
Inside sales, yeah.
Yeah. The reason I asked that is because inbound and outbound means are to me at least, are you reaching out to customers proactively or are you letting them come to you first, right? So
okay. It's inside and outbound, yeah.
Yeah, inside and outside. Okay, no problem. Well, I think they're probably very similar answers for both. As I said, I don't view them really any differently. I would say I do most of my work personally in my office here as an inside salesperson. But does that mean I never fly to the city where my customer lives and meet them and take them to dinner? No, I do that too. That's outside sales, right? So I would say they're similar, but traditionally there will be some caveats. So let's do one at a time. I'll start with inside sales because I feel like that's certainly more of my expertise. So with inside sales, you're going to need training and coaching and good management to develop you as a salesperson, right? What do you say to the prospect or customer? What questions are you asking? How do you sound? What's your tone? What is your body language? You can't, if I wasn't on camera here, I could be slumped over my chair and very, very bored, and you might never know. Since we're on camera, you have to show up, just like field sales. All of these things are actually both. Training, development, coaching, it's all both. Tonality is really important. Mimicking and mirroring your customer. So if you and I are on a call and you're the customer and you're sitting like this, I would probably do that as well, something like this, right? Because you want to make them feel comfortable. If you're in person and the customer's sitting, you want to sit. If they're standing, you probably might consider standing. If they're leaning against a wall, you might lean against another wall. All of these different tactics that are silly, but very important because, again, you're trying to build this rapport and relationship that just psychology, if they like you and they think you're similar to them, they're going to consider buying from you. I mentioned tone. Another is speed of language, right? So you and I this would be interesting because I live in the United States and I'm from here. You live in India, you're from there. We naturally, speak the same language, but with a little bit different style, right? So if I called you as an inside salesperson and you answered the phone, I might at first speak a little slower until I realize that, wow, you and I can talk as fast as we want because you're excellent at speaking English. If I call an older person and that person is speaking a little louder because maybe they can't hear, I might speak louder. Somebody, you might not know this, but New York City versus a more rural place in the United States, let's say, I brought up my wife earlier. She's from West Virginia, and not everybody does speak this way, but some of those folks have what we call a draw, which is a little slower and a piece of their of how they talk that's a little bit slower and more deliberate. In New York City, they just, hey, you have 5 seconds, go. What do you want? And you're like, whoa, holy, right? So my point is based on region, based on gender, based on age, based on all of these things. You need to speak how your customer speaks ultimately, right? It's all about the customer. With that training, that kind of modeling and coaching goes into both for sure. Sorry, that was long, but I think it's important. There's a lot of different topics to educate people on. Technology these days, no matter what you sell and how you do it, whether it's field sales or inside sales, you have to learn your CRM system. You have to learn really, really proper and impactful writing. You're sending emails. That has changed for everybody. People are emailing constantly now or using Slack or Google Chat, or whatever. You're on your cell phones, you're sending text messages. So understanding and being able to use technology, that is not a gender thing, but certainly an age thing, right? People from certain, I almost said eras, but from certain, what is it called? Millennials. So millennials and generations is the word.
Generations.
People from different generations struggle with technology, right? 20-year-olds just inherently know it, and 55, 60, 70-year-olds don't. So that's important to learn. Less important for field sales. Field salespeople traditionally are going to go to the hospital where the doctors that they try to sell are working. They sit in the office or with the assistant, or they sit outside the surgery waiting to speak to the doctor. And when they do, they have a bunch of materials, right, that they can give to the doctor and say, this is who we are. Like, I'm going to call you next week. And that's totally a stereotype, but you don't have that luxury in inside sales. So you have to figure out, how do I share content digitally? How do I do these things? So you have to know that piece of it, where maybe in field sales you don't, but that's changing for sure too. So the training, the way in which we're managing now, remote work as opposed to in the office work is fundamentally different. You're doing this a lot, but the problem is you don't have the opportunity, and you probably see this in your work too. I know you do travel some, but you work from home quite a bit, and the training has to be more formally planned out, because if I'm going to work with you on a training session, we need to schedule time. I can't just walk into your office and say, hey, Thila, let's sit down and talk for a minute. It's a little more, you have to be more proactive or more thoughtful about it, I guess. That has changed. But, back to the original statement, I personally don't view field sales and inside sales all that differently, fully knowing there are differences, but I don't think they're as big as most people think they are. What is it? Tell me, not to just try to fill dead air, but tell me your thoughts. I know you do some field work. Do you go to France? Is that where you travel to? You travel somewhere.
France, where my headquarters located, mainly for a sales meeting and product training, I visit France. But otherwise, India.
Okay.
India, major cities I travel. See, for me, if there is any technically you have to understand, because I'm into B2B sales, industrial automation and aerospace and defense industry whom I work with. It's like, if you really understand the application and you have to figure out which of your product will suit, only for that, I feel, field sales is important.
Sure.
Maybe 1 time, 2 time, just to understand, give the solution. But to have the follow-up, to discuss on the commercial part and some initial level of technical discussions. See, now all my aerospace defense pilots and all we have conference, video conference, where we share the drawing, we discuss. So I feel drastically the visit is less now for me.
Let me ask you a second question there real quick. And I reserve the right to ask all of these same questions when you come to my show.
No issues.
I don't want to use all the content. But do you think, given the description you just said, so you are selling airplane parts and you need to go on site to learn so that you can best help them, right? Do you think it's more important to go out into the field for you or for your customer? And what I mean is, I've been talking from the seller's point, actually from the buyer's point of view, where it's sort of all the same now, right? You can still build a relationship like this, but your point makes total sense. You can't possibly know everything about what your buyer needs unless you see their manufacturing facility, right? You need to see how your products are going to help them.
Yes.
But do you think it's more important for you to know that, as opposed for them to shake your hand is probably less important, is my guess, right?
See, there are 2 things. If customer is desperate, he's not finding any solution from any other supplier, then he need me to visit. To give him a solution, to see the application, machines, factories. So that is one category. Sure. And one more category for me, if I visit once, I will see other applications, other scope, of opportunity to sell my product.
Interesting.
So yeah, it is case to case.
That's a really good point. I will say we don't have that challenge, or not challenge. We don't have that opportunity in inside sales. So that would be a major difference, and certainly with what you're selling, right? If I walk into, I'm thinking of a manufacturing facility I was in recently, and the place was humongous. It was several football fields long, American or football. It doesn't matter. This thing it looked like a shopping mall, and I could totally understand that you might see things that, and the hospital system is sort of the same way, right? You might see things that you otherwise would not have been told in a StreamYard, right? Or in a Google,
Yeah.
the Zoom. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because many times when I visit, see, I might have went to see my product opportunity, but I used to get a lot of other opportunities by looking at them. They
Yeah.
might be using other competitor product, which I will know when I visit and see it. So I'll
Yep.
say, why don't you use our product? You will get more benefit. I used to write down all the competitor part number, whichever products they use right now. I used to write down the part numbers by looking at it, because if you ask, in StreamYard or Zoom call, customer will not have time to go take the part number and give it to you,
Sure.
right? But if you go immediately, you can pick up all the part numbers and you can offer them with a better
Smart.
solution.
That's a really smart tool. So for your listeners, I think that demonstrates a couple of things: how good you are. So it's good that you have this show. It also demonstrates the concept of sales. So my definition of sales, and I think a lot of people, I share it with a lot of people. I didn't make it up, but selling is helping a buyer figure out how to solve certain challenges that they have. That could be financial, that could be workflow issues, that could be staffing and knowledge issues. There's so many different things, right? For you, you're there to sell a certain part, and they know that. They're like, yeah, come on in, let's tell me how you can sell this part to me. But they have other problems in their company that they're not telling you about. And
Yes.
maybe they don't know you know it. Maybe they don't know you have a product for it.
Mhm.
My point, the alternative would be you show up, and instead of sneakily writing down the part numbers and later saying, hey, I might be able to help you with these things too. The alternative is you show up with a product list and you say, here's all the stuff we do. How can I help you? That is not the way to sell.
Yes.
The way to sell is to identify and get them to talk through their challenges, and then figure out if you can help them. Then you go all in. If you can't, there's no reason to try to just pitch what you do. Buyers don't like that all that much.
Yeah. See, and one more thing, if a buyer is giving you an appointment, that means he has some problem. It's not that he has all the free time just to invite everyone and to have a conversation. So you have to understand why he has called you,
Mm-hmm.
why he has chosen you to have you on the table to discuss.
That's right.
And you should have an impact when you are moving out of the company after the conversation. You must have created some impact on him, that okay, she had come and I got the benefit out of this, I've learned this.
Yeah.
Otherwise he's not going to give you an appointment next time.
Let me ask, why are you using the him? Why is he the boss?
Because whomever I met, 99.9% is all male.
Okay.
So automatically it is coming for me what to do.
I wish my CRM, it's irrelevant since it's business to business for the most part, but we don't have gender, obviously, as a code in our system, right? But if I could, during the time of this call, pull up my pipeline and just look through our opportunities, I would bet 40% are women and
Wow.
60% are men. Granted, that doesn't mean they're the only buyer in the company or the only person that I'm selling to, but the key decision maker or whatever, right? I would say it's close to 50-50, not entirely, but close
But
to 50.
what kind of industry it would be? Because mine is totally into electrical electronics. Maybe
Yeah.
that is why male is more. I
Oh,
feel.
I think that's right. I think what you're selling and who you're selling to, Matt. My business, of course, works with all sorts of industries, so
Mm.
it's hard to pinpoint. I would say for the programmers that start companies and are selling a software, most probably tend to be men. Medical device, more male dominant. Education and education technology, closer to 50-50.
Yeah, yeah.
Marketing
Maybe
services,
banking,
various consulting practices tend to be more 50-50.
banking also, right? It's 50-50, I believe. Banking
I
sectors.
don't do much in banking.
Banking, okay.
We have a few clients in the financial technology world, but yeah, we're not huge into we would like to be. We're not huge into the financial sector though. It's where all the money is. It's where you should be, for sure. I visited one
Yeah.
client in the finance. This guy worked in Detroit, and he had $1 million United States dollars painting. The thing was worth $1 million on his office wall, and they did credit card services to help companies. It was great business, but I left thinking, I have a fake plant
Okay.
on my wall. This guy's $1 million painting. Quite different.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my next question is like, is there any challenging moment for you? If you can share, it's fine. If not, it's okay. Most challenging moment and how do you overcome usually? There is ups and downs, challenges.
I think that is the challenge. So ups and downs. I was telling my dad 2 nights ago that, granted, my business has been around for 7 years. So we're not young by any means, but we're still a small business. And I said to him, my morning was really bad. My afternoon was really great. And he said whatever. And I said, but that is my typical day, right? As an entrepreneur, as a company, small business owner, and salesperson, I could equate the same things to all of those people. You're gonna have challenges, and you're gonna have losses, and you're gonna have wins, basically, right? In small business ownership, it's like, and I'm making this example up, but like 2 people quit in the morning and you wake up to emails that say I quit, or a customer ends their contract with you, and you're really upset at the beginning, and then you land a deal in the afternoon, and then at night your employee does something really awesome. And it's just like, it's a roller coaster, right? And it's balancing those emotions and staying focused on the purpose of your work is the important part. And over time, you're hoping it'll, I don't know what's left or right, but you're hoping the trend goes like that, right? You're hoping that it's always going up and further along. Same with sales. You make 25 cold calls and you speak to nobody. And then you have a training session, and then you come back and you reply to some emails, and you're having a day where just nobody wants to talk to you, and you think, oh, this is like really hard work, or everybody's telling you no and hanging up on you, and your meetings aren't going well. And then you land a customer and they tell you, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard of. Now your day just got that much better. So, in my area of the country or of the world, we talk about like, trying to stay even keel, which means don't ride the highs and crash with the lows, right? It's try to stay pretty consistent. And that's super important in business ownership, in starting a company, and also the same with sales. Think about this. How many times, do you win a deal? How especially, and I know you're more on the account side, right? But if you're trying to prospect to start new, to find opportunities, the statistics are you're going to make 100 phone calls. This is business to business. 100 calls, you're going to talk to 10 people. That's it, 10%.
Yes.
That right there weeds out a lot of people. They hate that percentage. Of those 10, 3 should probably become some level of opportunity. 3%. That does not mean those 3 buy. That just means those 3 are open to talking to you. And then you have your conversion rates for how many of those 3 buy. Usually it's going to be less than 1. I bring that up only to say that's a lot of rejection, and salespeople face a lot of rejection, right? Yes. Back to your confidence thing with stereotypically with women, that might crush their confidence also. If you don't feel like you belong, and then it's hard to be successful, you're done, right? So I bring this up only to say that I feel like that's the biggest challenge a small company makes or has, and that's the biggest challenge salespeople have in general. One final piece is a tip that that I used myself, and I like my reps and the teams I work with to do, and you should try this yourself. When you're having just the worst of worst days, and you think like, I know the company you work with isn't a small business, right? You have a lot of resources, a lot of revenue, and you're not going to go out of business if you personally have a bad day. But you might think like, nobody is ever going to buy this stuff again. I'm just having this is terrible. Everyone tells me we stink. Call your best customer, not your best prospect. You're not doing this to sell more things. Call your best customer and just check in on them. See how they're doing. That conversation with someone you know and you like, and they like you, makes you feel like everything you're doing is worth it. And when you do that and you feel like, yeah, I remember why I'm here, then your day goes so much smoother.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's worked for me many times.
Wow. I never thought in that way. Yeah, that's very good. And as you said, it's very true. Many sales guys, even they want to quit the job because of the rejections, right?
The longevity of a salesperson, you mentioned a while ago, right, that the compensation can be extremely high and the rewards can be great, and you can work remotely, you can work on your own time schedule in some cases, you get to travel, it's fun, it's competitive, it checks a lot of boxes, but it's hard. And the beauty is there's a lot of sales opportunities, and if you're good at it, you're never going to be without a job for the most part, but it's hard. And so yeah, even for sales guys, it doesn't matter, sales guys, sales girls, you need to be able to deal with rejection on a regular basis and understand that they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting in many cases, and it depends, of course, where the process is or where you are in the process. Like, for instance, if you're trying to close a deal and they say no, then something was missed. There's value that they're not seeing. There may be something you screwed up, maybe something they screwed up. Maybe it's just not the right time. There's 100 reasons why they might not buy. If you're calling or cold emailing or you're reaching out to people to try to prospect and they hang up on you or tell you no, it might be you, but chances are it's probably that they're having a bad day. Maybe they don't like sales calls for people that they don't know. Maybe they get so many emails in a day that they're just not seeing the value. It's more about your strategy, I think, than it is you. And you just need to continuously try to develop and get better. And the successes will come, but the percentage of failure is high. It's really high. And like you don't have. Well, this is a silly question. So I know cricket is the biggest sport. Do you have American baseball in India? Is American baseball a thing?
No, cricket is very famous here in India.
So to us, baseball and cricket have some similarities. Not by any means across the board. It's not the same sport, but there's some similarities. And I ask you that because I don't know the statistics in cricket, but in baseball, the batter, the person holding the bat, hitting, if they get on base 3 out of 10 times, three out of 10 times, they go to the Hall of Fame, and they're some of the best ever. And that statistic and that sport is commonly used in American sales, where it's like, look, you're failing 7 times for every 3 successes. And if you do that in the sport of baseball, you will go to the Hall of Fame. You're that good. So imagine what that's like in sales, right? If you get 3 deals out of every 10 demos that you give, in many cases, that's really good. Sometimes it's not, but in many cases, it's really good. So perspective, right? You have to constantly just think in terms of I'm not supposed to call 10 people and have 10 people tell me they love me. That's not my job.
Yeah. See, one thing is to move on from the objections is, first of all, you have to accept there will be rejections.
Sure.
As you rightly said, out of 100 calls, only 10 is going to pick up the calls and speak. So you have to make up your mind that 90 calls is going to be rejections.
That's right.
So once you have the mindset ready, when you prepare for it, then you'll not feel rejected.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard though, right? It's a mindset thing. And going back to your confidence, if you're a woman in sales and you're new to the sales world because of some of the factors you've laid out before, right? And you have a confidence challenge or the imposter syndrome we talked about, and you feel like I shouldn't be here, and then you struggle because it's hard, that's going to drop your confidence even lower. And confidence is a huge critical part. I don't know if you've heard these phrases, but fake it till you make it. That's a big piece, right? Is pretending like, and let me give you an example. Some of our clients sell to very successful business owners, surgeons, superintendents of schools, leaders that do really well in their careers and really cool things, right? And then you have a 30-year-old salesperson making some phone calls to try to sell them things. And it's, one, very difficult as it is, regardless. But then 2, it's like, how can I sell to a surgeon? I'm not a doctor myself, and I don't know all of these. You're not designing airplanes, right? And so how are you going to speak to these people that are experts in their fields? And there's a lot of fake it till you make it. You have to, by no means am I saying you have to lie about what you know or what you've done, but you have to believe that you understand how you can help that person. And oftentimes people that lack confidence, that comes out, that you can tell if I don't have confidence to speak to you and I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not asking the right questions, you're not going to want to do business with me. And so that is a big challenge of getting them to, and that's any gender, but getting people to believe in themselves. Like, I belong here. Sure, I'm not a surgeon, so I'm not going to talk with this person about surgery, but I do know that my company's product can help that person if that person has some of these problems. I have every right to call this person to tell them they should consider looking at my product. Doesn't mean I'm of equal stature. It doesn't mean I'm of equal success levels. This person probably has more money than me, but I have every right to reach out to them, to talk to them about what we could do to help them. And that is some organizations, one that I work with a lot, calls that equal business stature, which means I have every right to be at this table talking to you. Think about you and me, right? We're on this show. We're not the only people who understand sales and understand gender differences in the workforce, but we're here and we have every right to be. We know what we're talking about. And you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's all related to mindset, right?
Mindset
And
is
one question, yeah. You want to continue?
mindset is huge. I agree with you.
Huge, yeah. Um, my question is, since you have did a lot of good work on developing a sales team for other organization, what is the key skills you have to look after if you're recruiting a good sales guys or a girl?
I'm glad you said that. The whole topic of conversation would be shot. Well, when I'm recruiting guys here, there's a lot of factors, and I'm sure you've seen this too, but I really, really like the quality of being curious. So
Mm,
I feel that too often salespeople, one challenge, we talked about this with you writing down part numbers, right? One challenge that salespeople have is they want to show up. For us, it's called showing up and throwing up. They want to show up at that facility that you go to and give that product list and say, we do all of these things. Which one do you need? And they want to solve problems prior to knowing what the problems are. And it's easier for me to just tell you, here's all the ways I can help you. What do you think? The real professional salesperson sits down and says, all right, Thila, I don't know what I'm going to recommend to sell you. I don't know if I have anything to sell you, but tell me some of your challenges. Now you have to frame the conversation, right, as it relates to X, Y, and Z or whatever. But the best salespeople can ask questions, learn about the problems or challenges that the customer has, and then if there's a solution, recommend that solution and talk through how that might help solve the problem. A lot of people get into the habit of, like, for instance, for me, what I sell is pretty basic, right? We help small and mid-sized companies grow their customer base. I could make the assumption that every CEO in the world wants to grow their customer base. And I'd probably be right most of the time, right?
yes.
But if I go into a call like that and I just say, yeah, we're going to help you do these things and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I'm going to miss critical information from my potential buyer by not asking a bunch of questions. And I think that blends itself really well into being curious. Even if you've heard the same answer 1,000 times, ask the question. Hey, Thila, I assume you're interested in growing your revenue and your customer base, but that's an assumption. Tell me, like, what are your thoughts about growing the business? And you answer however you do. And I said, really? Interesting. Okay, tell me more about blah, blah, blah. And I might have heard that same answer 30 times, but I still need to be curious and do the work to ask the question. Oftentimes people don't have that curiosity. So the number one factor, besides maybe background and education and ability and interests and stuff like that, of course, is very important. But I really like curiosity as a factor. And there's the questions you can ask in an interview to see if they're curious people. And that's huge for me. I'm sure there's 1,000 other answers, but I like that one.
Okay.
What do you think the biggest skill that you look for is?
I want to know what is his future plans.
Okay.
That way, I will come to know is he really ambitious or not.
That's important. I like
And
that.
recently, I've listened to Brain Tracy's one of the speech. He said we should know how many sales books he has at his home.
Okay.
That means he's really serious on, on this journey, sales journey. He want to learn, implement,
Yeah.
develop the skill. So my next interview, if at all I'm going to recruit a sales team, I will ask how many sales books he has or how many audiobooks he has related to sales.
I like that. I like that a lot. I have 100 or so behind that wall in our
Wow.
lobby. Yeah.
That's why you are CEO now.
Well, I can't assure you I've read all of them cover to cover, but most I have.
That's good. Yeah.
Yes.
I think, but as far as my circle, maybe hardly out of 100, 5 would be really have such books or such audiobooks.
Wow.
It's yeah, the ratio is very, very less.
Development in general is an important factor. There are very few times when I've wanted to, and this will sound gloomy and doomy, but there's very few times I've wanted to terminate somebody's employment on the spot. That rarely happens. But when somebody shares with me that they have gotten as good as they will be, and they don't need certain additional support, and they are experts in what they do, I tend to want to choke them to death. And to your point of motivation and long-term plans and all of those things, you consistently have to improve yourself, or else you'll actually go backwards. Think about any professional athlete, right? The Olympics are going on right now. They are training constantly. And when they're done with their competition, they might take a short break, but then they start training again. And the reason is because you can never stop improving. So to your point on reading books and on what are your goals in the future, I do agree with that wholeheartedly. I think consistent improvement towards that goal or aspiration is really important.
And my one question for your thing is, you said you will see the curiosity, but how you will see whether the person is curious or not?
That's a good question. It's hard, but in the interview itself, one simple example is towards the end of almost every interview, the interviewer asks the candidate, "Do you have any questions for me?" So that's a basic example, right? But during that time, if they say, "No, I don't," something's off. Or if they're not having a dialogue in the conversation, in the interview, that leads me to think they don't have that much curiosity. I don't do this often, but here's an extreme example. You might say something outlandish, right? To see if they ask you a follow-up question. I don't mean anything, bad or inappropriate, but hey, are you going anywhere this summer? Are you traveling? Are you going on vacation or whatever? And they say like, yeah, I'm going to the beach. And how about you? Yeah, I'm actually going to the moon with Jeff Bezos. And if they say nothing about that, like that, then they're gonna fall into the trap I was describing earlier, where they skip past questions because they're like, he's just kidding or whatever. But they're, you would say like, really? You're going to the moon? No, I'm kidding. It's an extreme example, but that would work, right?
Understood. Yeah. Got it. My next question is, what's your daily habits? Do you have a routine habits?
I do have a ton of them. Most of them bad. I drink a lot of coffee. So I think I don't do a good job of it, but I strive for balance. So I was a college athlete. I like I still like to be active and work out and play sports. And so exercise is one of those components, right? And I think it's funny, right? Like every time I exercise, the rest of my day is much more clear and focused, and I'm happier. But it's just so hard, right? With everybody's schedules, and I don't have to tell you certain things, right? You've had a baby for a year, so I'm sure sleep is hard for you and all these things, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's hard to do it, but then once I do it, I'm more focused, I'm better at my job, and I'm also healthier and better as an athlete. Balance would be the word, though, right? Trying to do like some things in every category of your life would be a habit. That's like the big picture answer. I'd say on the short term answer, the more specific answer to work, like as a salesperson, you have to try to juggle, some time spent on prospecting efforts, some time spent on trying to close opportunities that are ready to close, some time spent on working with your existing clients and furthering them along. But that's also balance. So I'd say, being in our profession, balancing your day is critical to overall success.
Yeah, I see. That's a good point. We have to, schedule prospecting for some time and follow up for some time, identifying new customer prospects, and checking your mails.
It's hard.
Otherwise, you will go mad, right?
How do you? Well, that goes, going back to the gender differences from my experience, and this is not scientific, but women tend to be much better at organization and like managing. Stereotypically, right? You're managing a household. You're managing your family. You're managing all of these different components. Add a job to it, and that's a lot, but you're good at it. That's totally stereotypical, of course, right? Not everybody's good at it, and some men are good at it too. But if you're juggling all of those different things and you're balancing them properly, I'd put a check mark in the category for women are better than that at men.
That's true.
Than men, right? So yeah, being able to focus on the right components is really difficult. I struggle with that part personally. If I'm having a really, I don't know if it's emotion or intellectual intelligence or emotional intelligence or what, but I struggle. Like if I'm having a bad day, it just ruins everything else, right? And I have to figure out like how to break out of that. If I'm having a good day, everything's perfect. So it's hard, but it's important.
Yeah. See, it's okay for some time if you're not on the track, but we have to always strive towards it. Even if I miss some days, I still, focus on at least next day. I'll wake up early. I'll make sure if things are in place. So I think, you have to keep on striving towards it and make up your mind. You have to. You have to do every day. It's okay if you miss some time. For me, I have a time planner, like every hour from morning 5 a.m. up to midnight, what I'm going to do every hour.
Wow.
And I will review every month whether I'm doing it properly or not, any changes, any modifications. So in that way, it is helping me out to follow my, my daily plan.
Yeah. That's a really good idea. Do you ever do what's called time blocking, which is like for this, and I assume that fits within what you just said, but within this chunk of time, I'm going to do my prospecting work. Within this chunk of time, I'm going to not check emails and work just with my existing clients. Do you ever do things like that?
I do, but to be frank, I'm not that perfect. But I have scheduled for it, but sometimes it misses here and there when you get a call from customer. It happens sometime, but there is a plan. I've planned to do such things. Morning first 2 hours, it is only mail checking because that time you don't get much calls from customer,
Sure.
right? And you can't do the prospecting in the first off because customer will not be interested if you disturb them in the morning hours.
Yeah.
So prospecting in the second off, follow up in the second off. So customer interaction is mainly on the second off. Your team interaction and your identifying prospects in the system and checking mails is all in the first off. So that way
That makes a lot of sense. And you're setting up your day based on the customer. I love that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your schedule needs to be. What's there.
That's why I also tell all the sales team, like it's not customer your time customer. You can't expect customer to be ready to pick up your calls when you are free. It's like when customer's free and you have to pick up the call whenever he calls, even if at midnight he calls. But there are many sales engineers in their leisure time, they want to do the follow-up.
Yeah. That's right.
That's not right. Yeah. They have to be ready for customer time, not their own time.
Right. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So then, do you have any, is there any various ways of prospections according to you?
I don't understand. Just tell me that again.
The various methods of prospection, like a phone call, cold call, visit.
Yeah, all of them. So the answer is you should do as much as humanly possible to build awareness and drive conversations in your business. So that might be phone calls, that might be email, that might be using social media. You said visits, trade shows, a TV commercial, a billboard along the highway. Granted, here's the challenge, and I'm not kidding, but it sounds like a joke, right? But the challenge is with limited resources, time, bandwidth, money, all these things. How do you do, which ones do you do the most? And how do you do it? I subscribe to, back to the inside sales piece, right? It's if more efficient and more affordable to make phone calls, send emails, and use social media, LinkedIn, for instance, to develop relationships. Going and visiting prospects is potentially better from a percentage standpoint, not always, but sometimes it's better, but takes a lot of time, right? I remember, I'll give you an example. You have been to the United States, right? I think you've told me that.
No.
Okay. I don't know then who I'm thinking of, but in New York City, it's our biggest city, of course, in the United States. I could see, I was visiting, this is a previous career of mine. I was selling in the ed tech world, so selling to schools. And I could see the next school that I needed to go to across this bridge. For those in the United States listening to this, the Williamsburg Bridge, and into Brooklyn. And I could see the building. It was far away, but I could see it. It took me like 2.5 hours to get there. And I know there's crazy traffic in certain cities in India for sure. For an entire day, we got to visit 3 different buildings. That was it in a whole day. If I was calling people, I could naturally talk. We talked about, like, if I make 100 calls, I talk to 10 people. So you have to balance, like, which is more important, the efficiency of inside sales or the importance of being there to shake their hand. And obviously the answer is both, and it depends when and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But I think you should do as many, go to trade shows, go visit their office, call them, email them, send LinkedIn messages. If you have digital marketing that's reaching out to them, great. Do it all if you can. And then if you can't, you have to pick and choose. And I tend to think that outbound prospecting, which is email, phone, and LinkedIn, is the most efficient and best way to do it if you're picking and choosing.
Hmm. I totally agree. Even my principle is the same. You have to be all out. We don't know where, how customer is going to call you. So it's
That's right.
better to be all out, whatever
That's right.
way, yeah, it is for you. And my question is, what is your secrets of success?
I, I don't have
See,
any. I don't
there
have any.
must be, right? There must
Work.
be your core values which you followed, your principles which you followed, which is making you to become what you are today, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
otherwise it's not easy to be here as a CEO,
no,
right?
I, I shared at the beginning, I work with a lot of, not only small businesses, but I do work with a lot of startups. And what I've learned from those founders and from my own career is that passion and love of it is what drives you, right? I said earlier, you're going to have every business owner has every single day, they have good things that happen and they have bad things that happen. Same with probably being a parent. Same with just being an adult human being is you have good stuff and you have bad stuff. And what keeps you moving in that direction, you mentioned like what's your career path, and that what keeps you moving is motivation and passion and excitement. And I think that as an underlying factor is the most important piece. So the cliche is like find what you love to do and do that for a living because you'll never hate a day in your life. And that's not true. But if you enjoy the work and you enjoy the mission that you're focused on, then you can get past all the crappy stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
People dream of buying a home. Well, you buy a home and something breaks. Now you have to fix it. That doesn't mean you sell the home. It means you fix it. Same with your job. Your job is you love interacting with people and having the flexibility and potentially the income, and you love sales. Well, you're going to hate certain pieces of it. So you got to figure out like what's the long game, right? And that's what I guess that's my secret. I
Yeah,
love what I do.
that's great. That's great.
I love what
Passionate
I
about
do,
what you
and it
do.
doesn't feel like work, though. There are pieces that are just miserable, and it's hard to get by every day. But at the end of the day, there's going to be negatives of every job you might have. So
Yeah,
deal with it.
I agree. Yeah. See, any job there will be pros and cons.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you want to give any advice to salesmen or women?
Um, advice. I think just that, right? Stay with it. And I want to give advice to your cohort of female passionate salespeople or those that want to get into sales. It's hard, but there's so much opportunity and so many good things that can come with it. And it's the type of job that you'll never master. Back to my joke about wanting to strangle somebody, you'll never be 100% perfect at sales. And I like that. I like the constant improvement opportunity and the constant work. So, yeah, my suggestion would be stick with it and continue getting better. Buy those books, get
Mm.
more training, read as much as you can. You're a good example of this. I know your style and you're very prepared and you're very focused. That would be my suggestion is don't think you're going to master it tomorrow and don't think that you're not going to be any good at it. It'll be somewhere in
Yeah.
between and continue to try to get better.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Yeah. Thanks. And the last one is suggest us any good books or podcast. Of course, I know your podcast Engage Prospect is too good. But other than that, if you want to suggest any books
Yeah, I think the
related to
Engage
sales or
podcast is good. In fact, not to promote that website, but on our website, engagedprospect.com, I have a lot of interviews with authors. So there's so many. I would
wow.
be I'd miss some if I'd shared names, but if you go to our podcast and our blog, you'll see a list of people that I really respect and think are great authors and really know their craft. I There's so many. There's so many resources out there to develop and get better at selling, and I think most professionals in general aren't putting in the work to constantly improve. So pick any author, doesn't matter. Go read their stuff, then read someone else's stuff, then read someone else's stuff, and eventually you'll have your own thoughts. I mentioned not finishing some books. Sometimes I open a book and I can't stand their person's stance. I think they're fundamentally wrong, and instead of arguing with them, or instead of whatever, it's just the more you consume yourself in a career, the more opinion you'll have, and the stronger you'll feel about that opinion. So just consistently learn. That would be my suggestion.
I think reading every day is most important, right? To
There
elevate
you
yourself.
go. I like your audiobook concept, though. It's a lot easier.
See, you asked how a woman manages. I don't know about other women. How I do, even while cooking, I used to listen audiobook.
There you go. Exactly.
So that I can manage both. Yeah. So
Exactly.
even when I do yoga, exercise, listen
Yep.
some audiobook. So you can do two things at a time.
Absolutely.
So how being resourceful at the max, that's important.
Good.
So I'm done with my question. Thanks
Good.
a lot, Dan,
Thank
for
you.
coming to show a lot of insights.
You are welcome. It was wonderful to talk to you. You asked great questions, and I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.